And that's the police department from that lady that shot that kid, or not, I said the young adult. And you can see in the background they got the police in riot gear as usual. Got it barricaded up in Minnesota. All right. Conception, American conception, that protest has been effective, when the was it the Tea Party, right? Back in the day where they dump all the tea, the British tea in the harbor. That was a protest because they were protesting England. The native or the colonists were protesting England for the high tax at the time they were imposing on the colonists here, the new colonists here in America. So what they did is like enough is enough, and they start dumping the British tea in the harbor. I think it was a Boston Tea Party, is that if I remember from history, and then so it sparked a revolution, and then the war against the English. And then we have the protests, and they're going yada, yada, yada. And if you look through history, there's been a lot of protests, both on the black side and the white side, for injustice. I mean, you got the Fred Hampton protests, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, so on and so on. The famous peaceful protest with Gandhi, where he stood and sit in, didn't eat, didn't drink, just sat there, for days on end. So is protest effective? Protests in some ways are effective because it do bring about some type of significant change, and it do bring about something that we would like to get done in society. I mean, we can all agree with that, okay? But is it really effective when it comes to ending racism and discrimination? There's the women's suffrage movement, all right? That was part of our history. There was the protests with, if I can remember, the famous Vietnam War protests where the college students were actually shot by the National Guardsmen. A couple of them were killed. It didn't stop the war. The war still raged on. There was even the protest for this last Iraq war, all around the world. It didn't stop. The war we still bombed Baghdad. So is it effective? What change can be done with it? Here's my thoughts. When you protest today, and if y'all could just follow me for a minute, remember the movie that with Will Smith, Enemy of the State, and there was this famous scene from the movie where he's talking to Gene Hackman on the roof, and Gene Hackman's explaining to him about, you may think that all of this has just been happening. We were learning to hack people and follow their movements way back in the 50s, meaning the CIA and the FBI and all that, right? When you protest today, a couple of things happen. And I'm talking from a military mind. One, you're being cataloged. All those young people out there that you see protests, it doesn't matter if you do it in LA, Seattle, it doesn't matter if you did it in Hawaii or Puerto Rico or Alaska. If you protest against the government, you're cataloged, meaning the drones that fly above that you don't hear, that's picking up your facial recognition, is being cataloged in a database. The database is being sent to the NSA. Let me just give a little warning. This is not a conspiracy theory stuff. It's not. It's not conspiracy theory. Because I used to work for military intelligence back in the 90s. It's not. So what I'm telling you is freedom of information, okay? You can look it up. When you protest, your face is being cataloged into a database, meaning you're being, as the word catalog, you're being filed, okay, by your name and your identity and where you live and all these things. That's number one. Number two, how you react in whatever protest. It doesn't have to be for Black Lives Matter. It could be for breast cancer awareness. It could be for, I don't know, stopping trains, whatever you're protesting about. they catalog that too. So now they have your interest of what it is that you're really standing for. Keep that in mind. So number one, you're being cataloged, and number two, your interest of what it is that you stand for is also a key factor. Why is that a key factor, Starfury? Because when you pull up that database on you, let's say they pull up Starfury, not only my personal information come up, my interest of what I hold dearly, aka family, aka my business, that also pops up on you. All the stuff you see in the movies, that's true. It's true. That's why this sergeant you saw earlier with the yelling at the black dude, he's about to be reprimanded. He is. Nothing could hide him from that fact. Because he probably have a clearance and he just violated his clearance by doing that on camera. All right, so you're being cataloged and you're being identified. I'm sorry, you're being identified. You're cataloged and your interest is being recorded. Now, here's where it gets interesting. After you did the protest and after you went home, if you want to even get a security clearance or a job, you can forget it. If you want to get a government job, if you want to get something that you can make money, you can support your family, it's a done deal. They're not going to hire you. Now, you may say, Starfury, why? That's not true. It is true. Because one of the questions that comes up when they do a security clearance is, have you done it? I think it's question, I think it's one of the teen, it's not one of the high numbers, it's one of the low numbers, meaning it's up in the teens and the 20s when you fill out your clearance paperwork. They ask you, have you done anything against the United States in any way, form, or fashion? Meaning, have you done anything to protest, to go against the government that you're about to work for? I know I had clearances. That's one of the questions. So that's number 3. Job-wise or anything you want to get for the government or even the state, it goes against you. Number 4, if you get arrested, it follows you. Even if it's a misdemeanor, it follows you. Number 5, guilty by association. Let's say that, let's say back in January 6th, January, February, it's been so long now, with the whole insurrection on the Capitol. If you were just getting ice cream with your kids somewhere in DC and you run your credit card and you were there at that time, at that day, on the outskirts of it, you'll be flagged. And the list goes on and on and on and on. But those are the 5 key things right there. Why when you go to protest, you got to think about it. The reason why they push protests and they do this stuff where you see this idiotic sergeant yelling at this kid, and you see the officer being taken out by the cop. The reason they show that on blast is because they want to get the black community triggered. We talked about that last time. I think when we had a guest speaker on here, he was saying that it's because of the divide, it's the fear and divide that the media puts in to divide us. That's true. I don't protest. Me personally, I don't protest because I know I worked for the government since I was 17, and I know how they operate, and I know the repercussions of it. I know they catalog everything you see on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram, Twitch. All these media outlets is being cataloged through the NSA. This video on Zoom is being cataloged, everything. So I don't protest. But being a veteran, I know how to organize, and I know how to come together, and I know how to run a mission up. Meaning, I know how to go in and strategically protest without actually protesting at all. And it goes back to the protest. Same thing for protest. How can we go out and protest every time someone gets shot? thinking that we're gonna do something and make it happen. People were protesting 3 years ago. People were protesting for Trayvon Martin, what, 13 years ago, right? He was shot, what, killed, what, 12 years ago? Black Lives Matter has been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with protests. And where are we? Where are we today? Can it work? Can protests work to end racism and discrimination? This kid, and I said this in my last discussion last week, I said, someone else is going to get shot. I've been saying this for 3 months now. I said, there's a bullet out there for somebody. And we saw this young guy, he got it. He got that bullet, right? And he died. I'm calling it spade for spade. That police officer is not going to get charged. I know they charged her. She's not, nothing's going to happen to her. Why? Because they're going to use this opportunity to let that young man, that young kid, and said that he had a warrant. I guarantee it's going to happen.